I'm Chris Corson, an artist in residence here in the Greenbelt Community Center, and proud to be part of the center's quite wonderful ceramics program. I teach sculpture. I am not in my studio for this fall studio tour, although I've set out some of my work in room 303 for visitors to see. And I'd like to use this video to talk about them. If you're interested in seeing more or want to talk about art or ceramics or anything, feel free to make an appointment to visit my studio pursuant to the center's COVID protocols. If you're wondering what this is, it's rock clay. It is how all of my work starts out. Most of my work over the past decade or so has been the human figure. The human form in art goes back thousands of years. Personally, I believe the body has a unique and powerful capacity for expressing human experience, human emotion, who we are. It's all in there if you take a look. I call this figure chrysalis, all hunched over as if it's trying to protect itself. But as I was making it, and I make all of my work with my hands, I was really struck by how defended the piece is, the pose, but it still leaves the back completely unprotected. And the more I worked on it, the more I came to think that the back, this exposed, vulnerable back, is the most important part of the piece. Vulnerability physically, but in the context of my artistic work, emotionally, vulnerability is an inescapable part of the human condition, and probably much more so than we would like to admit to ourselves. But nevertheless, we get up every morning and we go through life. So in that way, I really came to conceive of vulnerability as an enormous strength. I didn't know that I thought that way before making this piece. But it's really become an important part of how I feel now. This figure has a similar theme. Here the body is completely hunched over, as if downtrodden. And this broad back is even more completely exposed. I call the figure plinth, which in architecture and sculpture is a base for supporting something else. I used to work in the labor movement. I imagine some ornately decorated column of capitalism rising out of this figure's hunched over back. And our economy does indeed rest on the backs of working people. And all too often, the most vulnerable support a prosperity that they can't enjoy themselves. We saw that acutely at the height of the pandemic, calling essential workers heroes, but still not giving them adequate protection against the disease. Anyway, that's what I see in this figure, out of my own history and experience. But I really invite you to come to this work or to any work with your history and experience and have the reactions that you have. It's all valid. Let me turn to these pieces. Since coming to this wonderful activist community of Greenbelt, and especially recently since so many politicians have decided that they want to campaign on spreading hate and division, I've really felt the need as an artist to make protest works, to do what I can. So these are two of a series of 7 works in which I used an ancient form of public communication, the Greco-Roman stela, which is an inscribed base supporting sculptural elements that illustrate the message. This figure, or I'm sorry, this piece, Be My Voice, I really made because so many people in our country, throughout the world, can't speak up for themselves due to modern day slavery, servitude, fear of political retribution, dramatic economic inequality, and especially in our country, fear of deportation. So I want really this to be a message that if we're not in bondage, then we should help speak for the people who are. And I want to share with you, I very recently got contacted by a textbook publisher for middle school and high school students, and they're putting out a new edition of a book that they have on doing ceramics. And they asked if they could use an image of this piece in the new edition. I'm thrilled, and I really hope it happens. I mean, imagine school kids across the country opening their textbook and seeing a work of mine on the power of art and the importance of helping other people. Thrilled puts it mildly. This piece, Suffer Little Children and Forbid Them Not, it's my reaction to the separation at our southern border of thousands of children from their families and putting them in cages. This, I'll tip it up so you can see, this is a little boy, and he's lying on top of the letters DHS for Department of Homeland Security. I will never not be furious about what our country did. So I just felt I had to make a piece about it. The quote, "Suffer little children and forbid them not," is from the New Testament, but this isn't about religion, it's about morality. I can't imagine any religion that tolerates the deeply immoral act of separating children from parents and caging them. Well, I'm on the subject of kids, and in a much lighter vein. I had the pleasure a few years ago of teaching ceramics to some 5 to 7-year-olds as part of the program here. I really didn't think that my figures or my protest pieces would be the appropriate subject matter. So I made a series of just little demonstrations, mostly of animals. I surprised even myself by making this little fish. This was the first thing I made. It's kind of adorable, if I do say so myself. My other work's pretty serious, and I generally think of myself as a serious person. But I also believe that artists can only make what they find within themselves. So apparently I have a goofy little fish somewhere inside me, and I've decided that that's a good thing, actually. This lion, I really like how this came out, so maybe I have some dignity too. I love the colors on this turtle. This reef scene is actually a bobblehead. I like it. So I think I actually learned a lot out of my experience teaching the children. I think they really lightened up my work, broadened my forms, and even my content. it's been part of a very good experience for me as an artist being here in the community center. The last thing I want to say is that I've begun working on a new series of pieces about the emotional passages of life, about stuck places that we all have, about how we feel when we wake up in the middle of the night, how we deal with our demons, and certainly how we welcome the angels into our life. None of the pieces is finished yet, which is why there's nothing on the table in front of me here, so you'll have to stay tuned. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me. You can see my work on my website, which is CorsonSculpture.com. And if you want to be in touch with me, my email is CorsonChristopher@gmail.com.